Hi, Writers. Cruz here. Thank you so much for joining me. In this video, we are going to be looking at the writing section of the science portion on the GED. And so what we have here on the left side of the screen is the passage, page 1 and page 2. And on the right side of the screen is the writing prompt area where we type and also the question associated with it. So we're going to go ahead and read this question first, then we will go back in the passage and we will tackle this response. The question begins with deforestation or clearing away trees is occurring in tropical rainforests. So if you're not sure, well, I don't know what deforestation means. You do not have to. The definition is given to you right after that. So, deforestation means clearing away trees, and that is what is called a context clue. Basically, the passage is saying that this clearing away of trees is occurring in tropical rainforests, and it's also known as deforestation. Then the next section explains or asks, explain how deforestation could disrupt the life cycle of, and then they give us a really long word, and you're like, ooh, that's going back to Latin. That's going back to just a time in my life where I was not focused on school. So, what I tell students is don't get trapped about trying to figure out how to say the word. If you want to sound it out, go ahead and sound it out with me. But it's not so important to know what that is because it's going to tell you what it means in the passage. What is important is that you're going to explain how deforestation could disrupt the life cycle of this in tropical rainforests. So that's the focus here. Now we can go ahead and sound it out, right, writers? So I might say something like O, and then I know PH has an F sound, Ophio, Ophiocord, Ophiocordyceps. Perhaps could be how to say this. And I see una, like universe, and then I see lateral, so unilateralis. So Ophiocordyceps unilateralis. But the question has nothing to do with figuring out how to pronounce this. The question is explain how deforestation could disrupt the life cycle of Ophiocordyceps unilateralis in tropical rainforests. Now for the next part, which is very important to think about. So, right, writers, it says include multiple pieces of evidence from the text to support your answer. What this is basically saying is when you write your response to this question, you have to pull text evidence from here and support it in your answer choice. And notice how it says multiple pieces of evidence from the text. So when I see that, it's not asking me for one piece of evidence, it's asking me for more than one piece of evidence. And so for that, I say two or more. And if you only have time to give two separate pieces of text evidence, then that's enough. Now let's look at the bottom part here. And it says type your response in the box. This task may require approximately 10 minutes to complete. So we'll take it from the top right, writers, paragraph 1. Tropical rainforests contain diverse communities of organisms with many interesting relationships. One such relationships connects parasitic, or like the word parasite, parasitic fungi and their insect hosts. A type of parasitic fungus called Ophiocordyceps unilateralis. So now we've figured out what it means. This is a type of parasitic fungus. Disperses spores onto the forest floor, but cannot successfully grow on the ground. The fungus requires specific conditions and must grow inside of a specific ant species called the host to reproduce. The ants, various species of carpenter ant, make nests in the trees. If the trees are gone, then the ants are gone, and then the spores or this fungus is unable to survive. So we can, start writing now, and then we can continue reading the passage. So I'm going to go ahead and begin writing, and then use my text evidence as I respond. Let me use what it says and respond with it. Deforestation could disrupt the life cycle of, and then spelling that out here, Ophiocordyceps unilateralis. And here I can now go ahead and begin responding. So, deforestation could disrupt the life cycle of Ophiocordyceps unilateralis in tropical rainforests. And so now I could go into clearing away trees. So, and here it says deforestation or clearing away trees is occurring in tropical rainforests. And so I could say something like, um, the, and here it says the ants, various species of carpenter ant make nests in the trees. So I can say something like, and I might ask a question that's allowed. Why? This particular type of, and now I could even borrow this particular type of parasitic fungus. And so if I use it right, writers, please make sure that you put quotation marks around it. This particular type of parasitic fungus, and then I can do something like this, and that lets the reader know that there's more information. Disperses spores onto the forest floor, but cannot successfully grow on the ground. Then I close the quotation. So, deforestation could disrupt the life cycle of Ophiocordyceps unilateralis in tropical rainforests. Why? This particular type of parasitic fungus disperses spores onto the forest floor but cannot successfully grow on the ground. Instead, this type of this fungus, and then I can say must grow inside of a specific ant species called, and I don't have to say called the host to reproduce. The ants, various species of carpenter ant, make nests in the trees. So I can say instead, this fungus must grow inside of a specific ant species. And then I can put the ellipses or period, period, period to reproduce. However, this carpenter ant makes creates its own nests in the trees. If the trees are cleared away, then the carpenter ants, then the ants, or then if the trees are cleared away, then this species of ants will disappear. And it really, this is a cause and effect and effect and effect. So cause, the trees are cleared away. Effect It impacts any type of wildlife that relies on or insect life that relies on those trees. And then that wildlife or insect life disappears, which then causes another effect. And that particular effect in this case impacts the ability for the fungi to reproduce. So, however, this carpenter ant creates its own nests in the trees. If the trees are cleared away, then this species of ants will disappear. And if the ants disappear, then the fungus, which needs the ants, could also disappear, or could also disappear, or could also be affected. If the trees are cleared away, then this species of ants will disappear. And if the ants disappear, then the fungus, which needs the ants, basically can no longer grow. Or we can say then the life cycle of the fungus, which needs the ants, will also be disrupted. And you might say, well, that was more than 10 minutes, Cruz. But again, if you're having to read this information, then, it takes a little bit longer. And right writers, again, this is really the goal here is to demonstrate. Number one, you do not have to read the whole passage before you begin answering the question, especially if 10 minutes is has started and you only have those 10 minutes. So that's the first thing. First strategy, you do not always have to read the whole passage. Second strategy, once you find the answer, the information that you need, go ahead and begin typing your response. And then you can always go back and reread it if you have extra time and you want to add on to it. So now let's look at the response, the question and the response again, just to review. Explain how deforestation could disrupt the life cycle of Ophiocordyceps unilateralis in tropical rainforests. Include multiple pieces of evidence from the text to support your answer. Deforestation could disrupt the life cycle of Ophiocordyceps unilateralis in tropical rainforests. Why? This particular type of parasitic fungus disperses spores onto the forest floor but cannot successfully grow on the ground. End quote. Instead, this fungus, open the quote again, must grow inside of a specific ant species to reproduce. Close the quote. Again, this is the text evidence. However, this carpenter ant creates its own nest. This quote, carpenter ant, end quote, creates its own, open the quote again, nests in the trees. Close the quote. If the trees are cleared away, then this species of ants will disappear. And if the ants disappear, then the life cycle of the Ophiocordyceps unilateralis will also be disrupted. Now, for those of you who wish to stay for the rest of the paragraph, we'll go ahead and read paragraph 2, and then we'll also take a look at page 2 at paragraph 3. And for those of you who wish to say goodbye, have a great, again, rest of your week. Love you guys. Take care, Right Riders. Bye-bye. All right. For those of you staying till the end, let's find out about this Ophiocordyceps unilateralis. So Cordyceps unilateralis, or O unilateralis, feeds on and grows inside the insect host. And within a few days, the fungus affects the insect's brain. The insect exhibits unusual behaviors, such as wandering away from the colony to where light and humidity favor fungal growth. Just before dying, the insect bites into and firmly attaches itself to a plant. Then the fungus slowly grows outward from the dead insect's head, producing a pod of spores that eventually bursts open. The spores fall to the ground, restarting the life cycle of the fungus. Okay, so that's definitely some information, again, that can be used on this idea of the trees where the insect wanders away, and then it goes into more detail. I still argue that we've answered the question. We're going on to the next paragraph. Though this relationship may sound gruesome, I find it fascinating, but for some of you, it may sound gruesome. Researchers note that these parasitic fungi may help maintain biodiversity in the tropical rainforest. Some parasitic fungi may be host specific, meaning that a fungus species only affects a particular type of insect. Scientists have observed that if an insect population begins to grow, more fungal infections occur, and then the insect population levels off again. This relationship may prevent overpopulation of the habitat by any one insect species. Again, this is really interesting because it looks at the biodiversity overall of the rainforest. And while it's quite fascinating to think about how how delicate a rainforest can be, as far as answering the question, we've answered the question about disrupting the life cycle of this particular fungus. And so I am glad that we went ahead and read paragraphs 2 and 3, because really what those paragraphs did is it elaborated and looked at the rainforest as a whole and sort of zoomed out. However, the question was really about zooming in and focusing on, what happens when those trees are cleared. And so for those of you who stuck it out with me to the end, I hope this demonstrates exactly why you should go ahead and stop and write the response and then move on to the next question. All right, writers, cruise out. Love you guys. Thank you so much for subscribing. Have a great rest of your week. Bye bye.